Good afternoon, friends. Can I have a loud good afternoon from you? You know, this is not in my script, but you will find me that I come from the corporate background, so I'll be aggressive for sure. I see the few benches in the front khali, and that means somebody on the back has made a choice not to come in the front. Guys, in your life, please play front play. You need to come front play. It's very important, play the front leg. And that was not in my script, but I think you should, because that's a choice you are making. It's all about choice you make. Happy to be with you around here, and I can assure you that the future is very bright. Let me give you some facts of the economy. 1947, Indian economy, USD GDP was 20 billion. And in 2007, the GDP of India became 1 trillion. So from 1947 to 2007, it took 60 years, a very slow pace to reach from 20 billion to 1 trillion USD of GDP size. But the good news is this, that in 8 years from 2007 to 2015, the economy doubled from 1 trillion to 2 trillion. And the great news after the good news is that in next 7 years, we are in 2018, in 2025, the GDP is going to be 5 trillion. And guys, you are going to be part of this journey. You are going to have immense opportunity for prosperity, provided you are willing to work hard. And that proviso is very, very important. So while the future is very bright, it begs the question, do you guys have a blueprint? Do you have a proper, a solid blueprint? Now let me give some suggestions to you as what your life's blueprint should be. Number one in your life's blueprint should be a deep sense of belief of your own dignity, your own self-worth, and of your own somebodyness. Never let anybody make you feel you are nobody. That's the first principle. Always feel that you have the worth, you have the count that you can, and you can influence anybody. Have that belief. Secondly, in your life's blueprint should be as a basic principle, the determination to achieve excellence. It's very important, the determination to achieve excellence. It is not luck that defines your success or your failure. It is the want and demand of your best efforts that will determine your faith. And finally, it is important that you walk and adhere to the eternal principles of your life, which is honesty in your conduct. This is very important. Life is not crystal clear for anybody, but we need to grapple and move on. Now, some of the things that I really want to share, because I come from the corporate background, and if you guys want to come to the corporate side or the industry world, there are certain things which are very important. If I say life is going to be easy, I'm joking, certainly, because I have to be realistic. It's not a mimicry show. I'm here to get into your mind, to your heart, and therefore I say life is not going to be easy. What is in the rule in the corporate world? The rule is perform or perish. And therefore, it's very important to understand what does performance mean. What is the expectation that the corporate or industry house will have from you? Let me start. Number one, you are expected to be business-like, business-minded. You are expected to be business enabler. Account keeping is a routine matter which, of course, have to be done with most professional way you could and in the best manner one can. But you have to be business-minded and business-like. Number two, you have to be a strategist. You have to capture every opportunity into business gains. And of course, you have to do this within the framework of law and in the rightful manner. Something like raising capital, treasury management, business valuations are the areas of expertise you must command. It's also important that while you are expected to bring the domain knowledge for which you are qualified, it's also important to keep that updating. It's very important not only to keep that updating, but marry it with the current developments. You will be grappling in your life constantly because You will have to rejig, you will have to juggle, you have to revamp, you have to reprocess. But what has worked in the past may not work in the future. And that constant endeavor is very important to realize. In corporate, output is very important. And let me say, whatever the best efforts you put, and let me call that best efforts as inputs. If the output is zero, you don't get any grade in real life, friends. So output is very, very important. And you'll find this aggressive stand because I am coming through the journey. I come from Porbandar to become a Guru Bhai type and be successful, and therefore I can relate this to you very much. You are expected to be giving relevant points, and the articulation has to be very brief. Please remember that the information load that we are surrounded with, and if you are not able to pick up the key point, and you are lost in the jargon, let me use the word, then it's going to be difficult for you to reach the top pinnacle of a corporate hierarchy. It's very important to bring out finer points from the host of the information that we have, and therefore bringing the key points and the articulation is the key to success, I believe. There will be a day in and day out. In a corporate world, in the industry house, there will be a day in and day out arguments where you ought to hold a view that you may have. But what is important is either you convince the other side or you get convinced and you move on in life. It is also expected in corporate world to wear a risk hat, whether it's going to be a financial risk or it's a regulatory risk or it's going to be other risk. It's important that you assess risk in whatever you are involved with. You will be dealing with auditors, you will be dealing with government authorities, you will be dealing with regulators, you will be dealing with inspectors, and you are expected to explain the business rationale, the decisions on the transaction that is being looked into. I think one more point that I emphasize is numbers. As a chartered accountant, you have to love numbers. There is no choice you have, my friends. And remember, numbers speak a lot. Whether you do year-on-year comparison or you do CAGR for last 5 years, it speaks of the past trend. It's also about future trend that the number speaks. Numbers is not only quantitative analysis, it is also qualitative analysis. And what is expected in a corporate role is the strategization that how you read the numbers in present for growth, ever-growing growth, of course, good growth. And therefore, numbers speak, and as a chartered accountant, you got to love numbers. You got to love billions and trillions. You got to love that. Something to touch upon on the current scenario, what does the current environment teach us? It teaches us that change is the only constant. The Ind AS regime, the GST rollout, the insolvency bankruptcy code, these are all changes. But the point that I want to make from this is that any change, any disruption, if you may call so, is an opportunity. Please remember and look of any change as an opportunity to become a gainful and meaningful and gainful employment out of that. You just have to think and be in power of positive expectation. That's very crucial in life. To draw an analogy, if I were to say, and if I were to compare, and my predecessor just mentioned about all CA, and it just strikes me that you chartered accountants are Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh of finance. Yeah, of course they are Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh of finance, and no doubt in that. But it's also important, and another analogy that I thought I will speak is that you are like a doctor to the financial services. You will be advising financial services of the health and well-being of the economy and the people. And what then there requires here is a fine balance between business interest and the custodianship obligation that you will have to play that this noble institute expects from us. And therefore, the balancing act is going to be very important. In the current scenario, you are expected to do things quickly. And when you want to do things quickly, are you compromising the things to be done rightly? Is a question. If you want to do it rightly, you need more time. But this world doesn't give you pleasure of both. And therefore, it's very important that you do things quickly and rightly and still move on in life. Some 2, 3, I mentioned about the corporate expectation, but I think, if there's anything that is coming between your success is nothing but you. And that reminds me some of the stories that YouTube's, nowadays motivational documentaries that come. And I pick up few of them and I keep on, even while I'm traveling, I don't waste time. I learn every minute. And that reminds me, I was actually playing chess with my son. I played 10 games with him. And, it's late in the night and said, son, I'm going to go to sleep. And he says, Father, you can't go to sleep. I said, why can't I go to sleep? And he says, Father, it's not hour until I win. I'm asking you, what about this attitude that all of us should, follow? I played another 10 games, and somewhere on the 11th game, which is 21st game, he won. And he yawned and said, Father, I'm going to go to sleep now. The point I'm trying to make is that hold on to your dreams. You might find rejections, but hold on to your dreams. Any day is never a bad day. I call it character building day. It's very important that anything that you learn is not a bad day, it's a character building day. And that reminds me of one more point where one of the young guys, when I was addressing this kind of an audience, and he raised his hand and said, Sir, what is the formula for success? Sometimes you get extempo, and that time I was lucky to get extempo, and I said, since you are asking me a formula for success, let me put it in a formula and give it back to you. Basic 4 principles in life: add, multiply, divide, and subtract. That's all, you basically get your things done. So the formula for success goes here. Always add values in your life. You can't be a termite. You have to constantly add values in your life professionally and personally. Number 2, multiply ethics. Ethics is a function of multiplication. Initial days, guys, you will find difficult to hold, and you need to have a backbone there, but maybe it's a slow start, but trust me, as you hold on to your views, the scale up is going to be very fast because people will see the genuinity in you, and therefore ethics is a multiplication function. The third is subtract fear. Dar ko hata do. Dar ko hata do. I remember I was in a presentation where big dignitaries were around, and there was a slide which says XYZ, and I wanted to know the full form of that slide. So I raised my hand and wanted to get deep into the slide, and I got the full form of that slide. I knew that all my colleagues who were there didn't ask because they were embarrassed to ask that question. I said, there is nothing like silliness to ask questions. Why, what, how? Please ask those questions. There is nothing silly in life. Dar ko hata do. If that's an embarrassment, dar ko hata do. Front bench mein betho, dar ko hata do. Also, the fact that I would want to mention is take decisions. Decisions logo to malum padega galat hai sahi hai na. So take decisions in life. So the third one I said, subtract fear, dar ko hata do. And the fourth I believe is very important is divide ego. Ghaman ko todo. As you grow in life, you should divide ego. And that's the package I gave. Of course, I got a lot of applause, and I'm sure I'll get applause here. I repeat, add values, multiply ethics, subtract fear, divide ego. And that was a short brief that I thought I will share with you, just like mine. 120 crore plus population. And guys, you are fortunate few who are qualified as a CA. Firstly, thank God, of course, but be proud of it. Be proud of it. The future is very bright for you guys. You are the custodian, the pillars. Play the role you are supposed to play. Be aggressive. And aggressive does not, it's a pure word. So please don't misunderstand when I say be aggressive. I meant by saying front benchers because it's only you you'll come forward. And there's a saying that says you can take horse to the water but can't compel it to drink. So it's you who is going to be coming forward in life. That's very, very important. Maybe one more point I would like to share is practice. Practice makes you perfect. Let me give an analogy of practice here. I talked about attitude, I talked about aggressiveness, I talked about domain knowledge, I talked about nothing is silly in life, all of that, but practice is equally important. And here is a story that I would like to share is that there was an archer who was showing his talent, and there was an audience watching. Each time he picks up an arrow, it hits the bullseye, and people used to say, wow, well, it was great talent that he was demonstrating. While he was demonstrating, and again he picks up an arrow and it hits the bullseye, there was a murmur behind where one of the guys used to say, oh, it's a matter of practice. Oh, it's a matter of practice. Now the archer was not liking that because he was expecting appreciation. He says, what does he mean by saying it's a matter of practice? With a lot of frustration, he goes to that person who is in the audience and says, what do you mean by it's a matter of practice? So this guy, who's an ordinary guy, an oil merchant, picks up a funnel, a funnel with a tube and a base around, and picks up a can and throws oil in the air, and that oil goes into the funnel without a spill. And he is asking the archer, can you do that? The point is, each guy's practice makes him perfect. He is good at archery because he's practiced a lot. He is good at what he does best, the guy who was the oil merchant. The question is, why I'm sharing this to this audience is because what will you practice is what you need to think. A couple of things in my mind here. If you practice to complain, you will become very good at it. Don't practice complaining. If you practice articulation that the way I'm doing, I started somewhere from zero, right? I'm before you right now just flawless because I practice. And therefore, if you practice that, you'll become very good at it. If you practice peace, happiness, you'll become very, very good at it. And the most important, you should practice to know who you are. Because if you know who you are, I think nobody can stop you there. Some of the colleagues who do come to me and say, oh, my young friend, he wants to become an investment banker. And I spend time with him and I tell him, do you know, it's just that the outside perception that this sounds so great, a vocation that everything is great. But do you know, are you fit for that? Because you need a marketing orientation, guys. I mean, we need to sell, and if you are able to do that, yeah, that's the field. But if you are not, if your upbringing is not, be mindful of who you are before you choose. And it's not the question of any capability. A tremendous capability each one of you will have, but it's important to know yourself. So with this, I would end my session. I think and I hope I was helpful. The most important part in the corporate world is that you are expected to grow. You are expected to, the formula that I gave you, because corporate world is all about going high and high. I mean, you don't have to look backwards, and it's all on you guys. Thank you for session. It's good to be with you. I hope I was helpful to you. You can connect me. My coordinates are with the institute. I would, and I can as much as I could, and I will help. Thank you so much.